Hello, people of YouTube, cut the nuts and rubs. This video is going to be related to mental and physical health, so there's your heads up. So if you're watching this right now and there are people like this you believe you can interact with this video, it's something called a pre-recorded video upload to YouTube. Yes, you're free to write things in the comment, but it's up to you how stupid it is or how smart it is. If it's stupid enough, I'm just going to block you. So you can say whatever you want, but should you? You know, usually I just say it anyway, but it does go over better socially if you put a little bit of forethought into what you're saying, you know. At least when it comes to important things, everything else is kind of out the window, I guess. I don't know. So, I'm specifically going to be talking about clinical depression. It's something that goes along with many mental health issues and many physical health issues, believe it or not. Yeah, clinical depression can go along with mental health and physical health issues. You know, clinical depression in itself, you know, can be diagnosed as a disorder. So that can be on top of having like a physical health disorder. So, but everyone in their life, at least once or twice, at least, probably more than that, has experienced depression in one form or the other. You know, it's actually natural, but you know, it starts becoming unnatural when there's no environmental factors. You know, it has nothing to do with self-care. It has nothing to do with environmental factors. It's all coming from your brain just going haywire. You know, then it would be termed clinical depression. You know, because you have to, like, take medication, and on top of taking medication, you know, be very aware that's what you're dealing with so you can cope with it better, you know, and have a better quality of life, ideally, even though you're dealing with it. You know, medication should take off the edge enough to where you can still have some quality of life, you know. I'm eating some oatmeal right now. I'm currently struggling with, you know, clinical depression. I take Wellbutrin for it. I might have to talk to my doctor about that, because here's the thing. Okay, I don't think the current depression I'm dealing with is clinical. I think it's actually a mix of things. I think that, you know, I'm dealing with environmental depression, which is triggering the clinical depression that normally I have a handle on, along with taking the medication to take the edge off of it. So I think environmental factors are triggering it, or like compounding it, because I live in a neighborhood where there's unfortunately a lot of, you know, substance abuse. You know, a lot of people around here, including myself, we don't have a bunch of money, so there's a lot of people around here who are dirt poor. You know, I thankfully have a roof over my head, and I'm grateful for it. You know, and I mean, even though I'm limited on the foods I can eat due to health issues, I still got lots of food I can eat. I got plenty of, you know, pretty much luxury things I can drink, like soda and stuff. You know, some people are happy if they could just get some water, for goodness sake. You know, so I'm definitely thankful and grateful for what I have, you know. And when I look at somebody out on the street, or somebody like a situation that's literally less fortunate, you know, I don't have pity on them. You know, I look at them like they're a survivor, because I look at my situation, I'm like, man, I'm like, sometimes I think I'm struggling. I'm looking at this person, and they're able to get by with, and a lot of them, you know, with an upbeat attitude, get by with even less. And they're not complaining, so what do I have to complain about, you know? Now, not to dismiss anyone, you know, comparing yourself to someone less fortunate than yourself, like saying, what do I have to complain about? You know, everybody deals with their own struggles. You know, to put it on a measure is absolutely stupid because we're all different. You know, say the teenager's dealing with issues that to them is feels like the end of the world. It seems like the end of the world to them. To an adult, it can look like it's nothing. You know, we're saying adults dealing with something that makes them feel like or makes it seem like things are it's like the end of the world for them. There's nothing left to do. A teenager it may look like nothing. You know, so to compare it all is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. You know, if somebody says they're having a hard time and they're not having a pity party and they're not crying sympathy, you know, a lot of times they're crying for attention because they need help, you know. But other than that, you know, I don't know. It's just, and then I realize there's a lot of people that you know who do abuse these substances. A lot of them are self-medicating. A lot of them, unfortunately, got hooked on them. You know, then it started leading to them abusing them, not being recreational use anymore, just abusing them. You know, but you know the ones that are abusing them that are for self-help, like they're just taking and stepping, drinking too much alcohol as it is to cope with their issues. You know, I think what a lot of alcoholics say they're like a functioning alcoholic to, I guess, to make themselves feel better about their problem. Well, you may be functioning, but you're still an alcoholic, and I hope you get help, you know. One of my friends who I consider my best friend, I lost my friend to, you know, alcoholism. So, yeah. I don't know. But what was I saying? Yeah, well, like there's a fine line for me, like between where somebody abusing substances simply because they have that YOLO attitude, like you only live once. They just don't care. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care if they're hurting themselves. They're just going to do what they want to do. They don't care if it hurts them or anybody else. They don't care. They're just going to abuse as much substance as they want. If somebody else wants it, they're going to get it for and destroy their lives too. There are people like that. If you don't believe there are people like that, then look up Albert Fish, the killer. And I think your whole world will be turned around on what you believed and didn't believe human beings were capable of. Yeah, you probably won't sleep at night after you do a little bit of research on Albert Fish. Oh, and there's plenty of them like him, and there's even worse ones that probably aren't in, you know, history or anything like that, you know. There was a guy that even the Nazis feared because he would kill anyone. His basement was filled with bones, you know. But yeah, look up Albert Fish and tell me that, oh, nobody could possibly do these very insignificant when it comes to the extent of depravity human nature can reach. Like, nobody could possibly do these insignificant things. Yeah. No, there are people who will throw their lives away and everyone around them because they simply don't care. It's not that they're depressed, they just don't care. You know? I guess idiot would classify what they are, and you know, removing themselves from the gene pool, I guess they should get the Darwin Award, you know. But that's clearly not everybody. That's just, there are people like that, though. I look at it this way, like, you know, I thankfully can see a doctor. I can't see a psychiatrist. I've tried. I can thankfully see a doctor that can prescribe me enough medication to help take the edge off a lot of the issues I'm dealing with every day. So I can better try to make a better quality of life for myself. I'm struggling lately, but that, you know, I'm thankful I have that. There's some people who are literally less fortunate. They, like I have disability income. They don't have it. You know, maybe they're dealing with PTSD. No, they can't get help for it, so they self-medicate with alcohol or with different substances. You know, then there are ones that unfortunately get to the point where, like with alcohol and different substances, it's basically abusing their body, how much they're taking to cope with their problems. But hey, they don't know what to do, so they reach the extent where it's an addiction that's destroying their life and can potentially be destroying other people's lives. And they started off not wanting that, but it's kind of slippery slope. When people get into that stuff, they start losing focus of everyone around them who it hurts. They just do it because it becomes like a dependency to their brain. You know, it's literally, to them, it's like a dependency to their brain. Without it, it's just bad. It's bad for them. You know. Then you got people who recreationally use this stuff. Like, there are some things I'm totally okay with people recreationally using. There are some things I think are absolutely stupid, but if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. And I'm not going to stand out there and ridicule them for it. You know, recreationally using stuff. I'll ridicule people who abuse themselves and other people to get what they want, simply because of YOLO, you only live once. But other than that, no. Like, I got neighbors who do different recreational stuff and they don't cause anybody any problems. Not all of them. But most of my neighbors, they don't cause anybody problems. The ones that do recreational stuff, they don't cause anybody problems. And usually if there's a problem, you hear that it had something to do with like a harder drug and something bad happened. It goes from them doing recreational use where they get addicted to where it starts abusing their body and they start losing focus of people around them, and then people around them get hurt. And thankfully, it's like bittersweet. Something bad happens, then they go to get help and they get better, you know, so they can hopefully prevent it ever happening again. But like with the clinical depression, you have to tell yourself that, okay, here's the thing. Alright, with clinical depression, I call it a mindset. I don't call it a mood. If the healthcare, system, if in the psychology books and stuff they want to call it a mood, they can call it a mood. I don't have any say. But to me, the reality to me is clinical depression is a mindset. Even depression everybody deals with. Which, even though it's normal, it's still not healthy. Because what leads on to, depression is probably something really bad when it comes to environmental stuff. So it's overall not healthy, But usually what depression is, just generalized, is a mindset. Because you catch yourself thinking something that if somebody else heard it, they'd be like, that's absolutely illogical. For example, if you tell yourself you're better off not being around anymore, there, stop yourself. Okay, how can you be better off if you're not around to experience getting relief? The last thing you're going to experience is pain. That's relief. That's why it's illogical. Your brain starts coming up with, that's why it's called depression. It's a mindset to me, whether it be clinical or not. Clinical is just your brain going haywire. There doesn't have to be environmental, but environmental can trigger it and make it even worse. But and you can also deal with normal depression like everybody else, even if you have clinical depression, and it doesn't have to trigger the clinical depression. You could be taking medicine for it, still dealing with the same kind everybody deals with, from environmental factors. But you got to tell yourself it's a mindset, and it's hard. Oh, believe me, I know. It's hard. We individually deal with things differently, but I'm 40 now. I've had clinical depression since I was like a very, very young teenager. Like, and, over and 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 over, it just keeps happening. And the bad thing is, it doesn't take the edge off. The edge doesn't go away. I'm not gonna lie. You know, the more you deal with it, it doesn't take the edge off of it. The more you deal with it, hopefully, like myself, the you can start seeing a pattern of. See, that's the thing. You can get trapped in the mindset instead of realizing that it's a mindset and look around you and be like, that doesn't make any sense. When you start thinking you get relief when you're not around to experience relief, that's illogical. You know, when you start thinking that people around you are going to be doing better off without you, that's illogical because number one, it's going to be devastating to them, and number two, you know, you're not going to be around to, know what's going to happen to them. So for all you know, what you did or what I did, if it worked, we could be, people we care about, we could be sending their life downhill. And a lot of people say, don't say this, but I'm just going to say it is selfish. I made an attempt that was supposed to work and it didn't. It just makes things worse. It is selfish. Doesn't matter how you cut it, how you try to justify it, how you try to tell yourself that you're righteous in what you're doing. Not those specific words, but everything you tell yourself, you justify what you're doing without. You think, well, I don't justify. I just use simple terms. That's still justifying it. My justification was, well, I keep lashing out at family due to physical and mental health issues, and it was a clinical depression mindset I was in. And I was like, if I'm out of the picture, they don't have to deal with me anymore. That's all I thought about. Very narrow-minded. Like, anybody can hear that and be like, well, that makes sense. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense because you're trying to get out of a situation because you're in this mindset that's telling you that you can get out and get relief by getting out when there's no relief when you're not around to experience it. Reality check. If you do something like that, they're going to find you. It's going to be devastating. Unlike a normal death, it's going to be harder on them. And it is very selfish. It's very selfish. To everyone around that experiences somebody doing that to themselves, it is absolutely selfish. Even if they try to hold back and not say it, deep down they know it's selfish. And we can tell ourselves it's not, but it is. Because everybody else has to deal with the aftermath. We're not around to experience relief. We're deluding ourselves. Like, everybody else around is going to be the ones dealing with the aftermath and how messy it is. You don't even want to know how messy it is, but you probably should to give yourself a reality check. The movies don't portray stuff like that very well. Okay, here's one thing that can give you a reality check. Like, okay, if you're more scared of getting help than you are of doing yourself away, if you're more scared of seeking help, then you're not thinking right. There's many things that you can ground yourself with. Whether it be environmental factors making you extremely depressed or whether it be clinical depression. What I've always told myself, it is hard to. What I always tell myself is things can get better. It's not if, it's how. You know, because a lot of people say, "Oh, things will be better. Things will be better." How do you know? Like, I tell myself things can be better because they can, but it's not if they can be better or not. You know, because anybody could say, "No, they can't." No, that's an if. No, no, it's not if. It's how. How can things be better? What can I do? If you ran out of all options on what you can do, you can seek someone else's opinion. If they don't know what to do, I don't know what to tell you. You know, seek more opinions. Do more research. Ground yourself. Self-improve. You know, something as simple as taking a shower or getting something to eat or going outside to get some air, even take a walk or whatever. Even sitting outside making a walking stick. You know, just sitting outside eating something, listening to some music. Anything. Anything. But to keep yourself active whenever you're dealing with clinical depression. Even if you hate doing it, which I do too. You know, in the end, you know, it usually starts letting up. You know, if you just, you know, a lot of times you just have to wait through it. Your mind can come up with thoughts of this and that way to deal. No. If it's not constructive, if it's not self-improvement, blot it out. And just wait. Get something to eat, take a shower, bath, do whatever you have to do. You know, even if you just got some dirty clothes on, you feel better to clean your clothes. Throw some on and try it. You know, no, I wouldn't. How do you know? Just try it. Throw some clean clothes on. Splash some water on your face if you can. You know, comb your hair with your fingers. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, to me, clinical depression is a mindset, and you have to find all the logical fallacies in it to ground yourself to realize it's the mindset so you don't fall for it. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, being in that mindset. There's nothing wrong for falling in that. It's not like you did anything wrong. Stuff just happens. You may have done something wrong, but stuff happens, you know? But you find the logical fallacies in the way you're thinking whenever you are depressed or clinically depressed. You find the logical fallacies to ground yourself, and you find things to do that, you know, will help you cope better with it. Keep your hands busy, keep your mind busy with something, anything. Even watching them, even just like, even though you'd hate doing it, you know, go get anything to eat, anything. Get a cup of water. Like, do anything at all is better than doing nothing, you know. But there is a point where clinical depression gets so bad that all you can do is sleep. And that's a good option. Because if you sleep, a lot of times it gives you a mental reset when you wake up to think about things again. And it can be very grounding. Hope you all have a good rest of the day or night. Really take care of yourselves, and Spock says long live and prosper. And you can't get relief if you're not around to experience it. And if you're more scared of getting help than doing something where you're not around anymore to experience getting relief or any help, you know, then you're clearly not thinking clear. And neither am I. So we gotta stay grounded. You know, find the logical fallacies, find what's illogical, stay grounded, and find things we can do. You know, how can we make the situation better? Individual.